It's really fun to talk about actual news that is happening. So let's get started right now.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
And we are the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your very first listen every day. Be sure you check out our YouTube channel at Locked On Rays, as well as the podcast on all other traditional podcasting platforms. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Rays and email us anytime, lockedonrays@gmail.com. Little disclaimer here, Ulises, we have officially entered off-season mode. And what does that mean? We are now recording 3 days a week, really until spring training season ramps up. So expect episodes to be dropping Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Most likely. Sometimes maybe things will shift a little bit. Maybe a Tuesday, Wednesday action, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But mostly that's the bone structure that we'll use. Just know you'll always have at least 3 episodes coming to your, ear holes, ear holes, very, very soon until what is it? February 12th, 68 days till spring training. Not that I'm counting, but 68, I think.
Right. Something along those lines. So there we go. Let's get right into it. Something that we didn't get a chance to address last week. JP Feyereisen is no longer a Tampa Bay Ray, as he was DFA'd and then ultimately traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers for a 25-year-old left-hander by the name of Jeff. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Belge, Belge. I don't know about you, Ulises, but a little bit surprised that JP Feyereisen, I know the injury is a hang-up, but this was a guy that did not allow a single run in 2022 over 24 and a third innings, which, by the way, is a major league record for most innings pitched in a season without being scored upon. I should note that.
Yeah, his remarkable 2022 season unfortunately came to an end. Boy, wouldn't have been awesome to have had JP this whole season. I know the pitching was definitely not the weak link, as we all know. It was definitely not the weak link, but when you now could have added him next to Brooks Raley, to Pete Fairbanks, to Jason Adam, I mean, you could have really helped yourself with some blown saves situations that happened this year. But regardless, I don't think it's too surprising, because we had talked about this on the 40-man series that we did, kind of crunching the numbers and the names. He was in the same Andrew Kittredge type of deal. Like, are we really going to put this guy in the 40-man and have him pitch maybe at most 2.5 months if everything goes well? So you already have that in Andrew Kittredge, and you decided to carry on Andrew Kittredge. You didn't do that same thing for JP Feyereisen. That tells me that they either feel very comfortable about Andrew Kittredge and what he can do in the future, or that JP Feyereisen would have a better market value in getting traded, for somebody. And it seems like this kid, Jeff, thank you for not knowing how to pronounce that, because I didn't either. Belge, maybe it's a little bit of French. Belge. He has a problem with walks, but baby, you're in the race system now. You're going to get fixed, Jeff. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and he's tall. He's 6'5", which is something that the Rays certainly like, enjoy, and relish. And having Kyle Snyder as a pitching coach, he knows how to work with very tall pitchers. So that is feather in his cap. I don't know. Do you think that they make the right move here in trading JP Feyereisen as opposed to Andrew Kittredge, or moving away from Calvin Fauché or Garrett Clevenger, like some other reliever, if you will?
I don't think we'll know that answer until, just like trades, 2 to 3 years, we'll see, oh, that was a good idea, or maybe that wasn't a good idea. But right now it's just a numbers game. Like I don't think they wanted to trade JP Feyereisen. Like that's number one. I don't think they wanted to.
Yeah.
But they kind of see themselves forced to doing so because they have a lot of AAA Major League Baseball talent, and you only have so many spots. So if the guy's just not going to pitch until maybe August and everything has to go well, and besides that, always think, every organization should know their players better than anyone. So
Right.
in the case of the Rays and with pitching, you definitely know that they know something. They know everything about their pitchers. So I'm in the I don't know which way I want to lean in, saying they traded him because he had more market value or asset tradable value than Andrew Kittredge, or because they can tell that JP's rehab wasn't going so well, or the injury is not something to come back so great after to bounce back. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know which way they leaned. I don't know if you have a take on that.
No, I think that's fair. And as we've learned, the Rays can and will DFA just about anybody. Of course, they were able to get something in return for JP Feyereisen, but we, of course, know the story about CJ Cron and Corey Dickerson and others as well. By the way, JP Feyereisen, he's controllable through the 2026 season. So I should note that as well. There's another pitcher go ahead.
Do you think this negates the Willy Adames trade at all for you, or does it taint it at all, or does it do anything for you at all?
I don't know about taint, but I would just say it's unfortunate that he had this injury pop up. I mean, the deal is still just based on what Drew Rasmussen is doing alone. I think that makes up for everything. Now, if something happens to Drew Rasmussen, if he gets hurt this upcoming season, then that could make the deal less fortuitous, but I think it still was a terrific deal for both sides for sure. So, all right, there's another pitcher that has dealt with his fair share of injuries that we didn't even really get to discuss when he was initially dropped by the Rays, but he was making his return on a 2-year minor league deal. We'll talk about him coming up next. But first, we have to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. It's where you can get the latest odds and trends for every professional amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and the World Cup. It is all covered at betonline.net. It is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. So head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. All right, the guy that I was just alluding to, Brendan McKay, he is coming back to the Rays organization on a 2-year minor league deal. Ulises, any thoughts on this?
Happy about it. I'm happy about it that they can reach this. I'm glad that they have that rapport. That means a lot, that he was able to understand the numbers, the crunching of the roster, and not feel slighted. We're gonna pick you up. It's all good. Like there's a good relationship there, and I really like that. It seems like they did right by Brendan McKay, sticking around. Everybody wants every Rays fan wants Brendan McKay to succeed. Right. We don't want a Brent Honeywell situation, which it's looking more and more like a Brent Honeywell 2.0 with Brendan McKay. But that's sometimes what happens. You can be. That's why you never say no. You never say no to your first millions. I cannot tell you how great it is that Eric Hinsky told that to Longo told that to KK, and so on and so forth. Like, don't say no. You never know what's going to happen. And with Brendan McKay, man, we talk usually about, did that young guy ever get, talked into a long-term deal by the Rays or something like that? If Brendan McKay was, hey, would you like a 5-year, 30 mil or 35, like after his first start? And he said, no, boy, it makes you wonder.
He's probably kicking himself after that, if that did happen, if those conversations did take place. Of course, he will spend 2023 rehabbing from Tommy John surgery. If you remember, McKay was released in November, so the Rays could clear roster space on their 40-man with the expectation that the team would re-sign him. Now, so it's a 2-year minor league deal. Do you think that Brendan McKay, with setback after setback, injury after injury, do you foresee him making it back to the bigs with the Rays over the course of these 2 years, over the course of this 2-year minor league deal?
If no more injuries happen, then yes. I think that, obviously the 2024 year, I don't know if he would be ready to go on opening day,
Right.
due to his rehab. But if he is, man, that's going to be the most stressful spring training for Brendan McKay, like that, because this is basically it with the Rays. Like, I don't think if he has a bad year, 2024, the Rays are willing to, like,
Right.
how many more wheels do we need to go around? So I think 2024 would be the it year for that relationship to last, and hopefully he does well, and maybe they like him. But with pitchers, you never know. I right now wouldn't pencil him in as a 5 to 6 inning starter anymore,
No.
right? Like, I mean, you now have to maybe look out, like, this guy is injury prone, unfortunately. Like,
Right.
that's how it happens. Like, how can we keep him at the healthiest? Like, is it the healthiest to have him throw 85, 100 pitches every 5 days at, at that type of velocity? Or is it better to just, hey, we'll use them every 3 days, an inning,
Yeah.
and then a third? Like, you gotta think about what's going to keep him the healthiest.
Yeah, I mean, my first inclination is turn him into John Orwood or Rick Ankiel and have him become a lefty bat. The other is turn him into Jalen Beeks mold of, be a 1 to 2 to 3 inning guy and see what you can work with that. What I can tell you is, man, it's so crazy that this guy, so much hype coming out of college and then making his major league debut and at the top of the prospect list. He got the $7 million signing bonus after being drafted in June of 2017 with the number 4 overall pick. I mean, if he doesn't do anything else in his career, which based on the track record, it's an uphill battle and an uphill climb. He could legitimately go down as, I guess, number 2 in terms of biggest bust for the Rays of top 10 draft picks.
Josh Saley would take number 1, you think, or Josh?
Well,
Hamilton?
Josh Saley was picked number 17. If you're just focusing on guys who are drafted top 10, Wade Townsend, who was drafted number 8 overall, never got past Double-A. But even a guy like DeJuan Brazelton at least pitched, 270 big league innings.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my point. I mean, I've got the guys, because I went back and I looked at it, because it's like, man, because the Rays, as successful as they've been over the years, is they've been picking, 20th, the 25th, the 30th, whatever it may be. But you've got Brendan McKay, you've got Tim Beckham, David Price, Evan Longoria, Wade Townsend, Jeff Neiman, Delman Young, BJ Upton, Rocco Baldelli, DeJuan Brazelton, and Josh Hamilton.
It's hit or miss, right? It's hit or miss right there. The Wade one is definitely a swing and a miss,
right,
on their part.
But
I was looking at this stat. The Rays are actually like middle of the ground on the F4 accumulated by their picks, by their first round picks, since 2015. They're like middle of the road, which surprised me, to be quite honest, because I feel like the Rays are really good developing players, just not. It sometimes seems like they're better at acquiring talent from other
the trades.
Yeah, that's where I think that their money and their butter is. Like the picking and the draft, like it's very slim pickings, but I do think that's just what every fan in every organization thinks of how their organization does with their draft.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely, besides the top 10 picks, they've whiffed on a lot of other draft picks as well. Like, God, what's the guy's name? Gillespie and Schaefer, and I mean, we can just go on down the
Nick
line of guys that
Schufo.
just,
Yeah.
never panned out. So,
well, actually, I was reading this old thing, this old article that, remember, I think it was for the Jason Bay trade in 08 that never happened, and then he went to the Red Sox. I think it's rumored, or I don't know if it's actually like a tangible evidence, that the Rays didn't want to part with Rit Brignac and Jeff Neiman for Jason Bay. Imagine if that was a trade. Like, now, obviously hindsight is like, oh, do that trade now, stat.
Yeah.
But we're all prospect huggers, and we got to stop being such prospect huggers, because Rid Brignac is not going to be better than Derek Jeter, Ulises. Even though you want him to be, 12 years ago. I'm like, oh, he's going to be better than Jeter. Nope. Jeff Neiman's going to have a great 2.5 years. And then that's it. And then he's going to fade into Rays lore. Don't prospect hug people. Don't prospect hug.
Well, that might have been part of the issue with, I'm sure there's been many trade proposals over the last couple of years where teams were asking for Vidal Brujan and Josh Lowe, and the Rays would say, no, they are untouchables. And who knows what could have been with those guys. And again, it's still early for those guys too. They could pan out, but as of right now, It's not looking so hot. Now, one guy who didn't have to be a first round pick to be productive, rather a 31st round draft pick, Kevin Kiermaier. This was a big mystery on last week's episode. We found out and discovered that he signed with the Toronto Blue Jays, and the big question is, when's it going to be official, and how much money is he going to get? Well, we've learned that with the Blue Jays, he has gotten himself a 1-year, $9 million deal. I think there's some incentives built in, and I guess the idea is that he will take over center field duties and George Springer will replace Teoscar Hernandez in right field. So good for Kevin Kiermaier, still continuing to get paid. And the more and more I think about this, we had talked about this last week, but he is going to a team in a lineup that does not need him to hit home runs or even hit doubles. It's just, hey, get on base for us, really. That's all you really have to focus on, by hook or by crook, whether it's by a walk, a hit by pitch, a bunt, a C9 single, whatever it may be. But because the Blue Jays are so right-handed heavy, you would think that teams would throw more right-handed pitchers to counteract that as best they can, and that should therefore give Kevin Kiermaier more opportunities against righties to help him.
All of these things that you're saying are probably one of the reasons why he said, turf, I don't care. My numbers are going to be better. Like, I love that he also mentioned during the Zoom little press conference he had that I think the quote, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it was like, I've got so many big boys around me that they're just going to drive me in. I love that's already, like, he actually said that. Like, we can say it all, but if he doesn't say it, like, he doesn't have to be the guy. Like, at times he was looked upon to be productive with the Rays. Like, hey, KK, you need to come through, because, like, who are you really, having next to KK? The Rays offense has been lackluster, is as PC as I can say it in this podcast, but except for 2021, and we all know that. But he goes into a scenario where he doesn't have to be the guy. He's going to be hidden. And what you say about right-handed pitching, it's going to be great for Kevin Kiermaier. And also, I think the mental stability of him knowing, I'm going to be playing center field. I am still a guy to be handling center field and not being relegated to right or left at 32 years old. Like, he's still the guy. I think it's great for him in his career, because if he does well, and by doing well, I mean 110, 120 games played with career normal, averages and all that. I think he's going to find himself maybe a 2-year next time he becomes a free agent.
That's possible. Again, depending on how he recovers from that hip injury. I mean, at the time of the injury, he still showed that he's an elite level athlete with his sprinting ability and his strong arm and being able to track down baseballs. I mean, let's not forget that he's tops among active center fielders in career defensive runs saved and ultimate zone rating. And another stat I discovered from Fangraphs in an article that they pinned, his 71 outs above average leads all outfielders since the stat was introduced in 2016. So he's still got that moniker to him for sure. So I think it's gonna work out well for him in that Zoom press conference, whatever you want to call it, media scrum, virtual. He said he was also excited to whoop up on the Rays. He, as we talked about last week, he'll get to live at home for spring training in Dunedin, and of course the familiarity with the city and the stadium. I mean, his numbers have been good there offensively historically. And he did mention this too, which I thought was funny. He putting on a different shade of blue will complement his eyes. I love how he had to throw that in as well.
Yeah, well, it's KK, so he likes to be a ham here and there.
Yes.
So of course he's gonna say that. No, I think it's a great fit for KK. I hope he does wonderful things for the Jays, except when he's playing the Rays. And I'm sure that people are going to be happy when he is with the glove, and people are going to be most likely frustrated. Fans I'm talking about, when he's with the bat. But overall, I think if he's just KK healthy, which again it means 100 to 120 games. If he's KK healthy, it's a bargain. $9 million for his defense and his just about below average offensive production. It's a bargain. $9 million. You're the Blue Jays. You're fine. It's going to be okay.
What is your favorite defensive play from KK? Is it sliding forward? Is it a leaping catch at the wall, robbing a home run? Is it tracking down a ball in the gaps in the alleys where not many people can cover the ground that he does? Is there a signature KK play that you often go back to?
Gosh, I mean, they're all great. I mean, when you can see him rob home runs, that's obviously like you saved one or multiple runs with that grab. The endless runs and dives in the turf when you think that ball's gotta drop, but then KK just puts on his cape and finally somehow gets to it by diving in. Those are great, but I think it's more the knowing his arm strength. I really enjoyed when he would settle under a ball and just nail it home, third, second, like it didn't matter. And he usually had really strong throws and accurate throws. And I think pitchers for the Rays really benefited from the reputation that KK got, and also the reputation that KK didn't get, because there were players like JT Realmuto who would like test
that's true.
KK's arm. And I'm not putting down JT Realmuto. He's the best hitting catcher right now that we have in the game. But, and great speed for a catcher. But I mean, he's no Wander Franco. He doesn't have the wheels. And so maybe because of being in a small market also allowed him to keep making those plays throughout so many years, because, people don't maybe keep up with how things are doing in center field with the Rays.
Maybe that's why Chris Bassett ultimately signed with the Blue Jays. He's like, okay, they got Kevin Kiermaier locked up. That should help me help my ERA and other metrics as well. So the Blue Jays got better. All right. Thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your very first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On Sports Today podcast. That is also free and available on all platforms. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you on Wednesday.